Hello, welcome to the first edition of Cooking with Kim. I have two goals for this video series. One is that you will learn to cook. We're just going to cook basic, wonderful food that your mom probably made or maybe your grandma. And we are also going to talk about encounters that I have had with God and heaven. So this will be the first one, and my goal is that you not only will learn to cook, but that you will learn to be able to encounter God and experience heaven the way that I have, and experience the wonderful joy of knowing Holy Spirit intimately. Let's get started. And Tom is my sous chef. He does my peeling and my chopping. He is better with a knife than anybody I've ever seen in my life. And without him, I'm just not exactly sure where I'd be. Today, we're going to be making scalloped potatoes and pork chops.
I generally peel one potato per person that's going to sit down at the meal. But it doesn't hurt to throw in an extra one or two because our God is a God of more than enough.
Here we go, chopping the potato in half. Set half aside. You can see how he has his finger right up there next to the knife, so he makes sure he doesn't cut his finger off. While he's slicing the potatoes into nice, even slices. That way they cook evenly, and they all arrive at the point of done at the same time, which you definitely want. Now, making scalloped potatoes is very easy. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to spray the pan with some spray oil so that it doesn't stick. Some pans are way worse than others about sticking, and this one is pretty bad. So I spray it in every time I use it. Then we're just taking a handful of potatoes. We're basically going to we're going to separate the potatoes from being chopped. We're going to cover the bottom of the pan with potatoes, making a nice thin layer. Then we're going to add a little bit of flour, maybe a couple of tablespoons. Just reach in my drawer here and grab a tablespoon, or just sprinkle the flour. I guess we'll just use 1 tablespoon. That looks about right. Sprinkle the flour over the potatoes. Then we're going to add some butter. And I don't worry too much about spreading it around. You know, just put it in there and it'll spread around as it cooks. Then we add salt and pepper. I absolutely love this pepper. I get it at Sam's Club. It's like restaurant style. And you don't have to grind it yourself, but it's very fresh in big chunks. And then we're going to add salt, and I'm kind of a kosher salt fan. Kosher salt's a little bigger than table salt, and so it's going to come out with a little more pizzazz to it, so you want to not use too much. Don't over salt. So we're going to throw in another layer now of potatoes, just like we did the first time, and we're going to continue to do that until we reach the end of the potatoes. You know, what I want to talk to you about today is an encounter that I had one day. I was laying on my couch, minding my own business. I was listening to worship music, and all of a sudden I hear a voice saying, "Come up here." And as I looked around, I was standing before these two great big huge doors, double doors that were, oh my word, I don't know, 20 feet tall maybe. And I kept thinking, how am I going to open these doors? And they just opened of their own accord. It was amazing. And I saw myself as a little girl, maybe 5 or 6 years old, wearing a little white dress with little white patent leather shoes and little ruffly socks. And the doors opened, and there was this big red carpet and this huge corridor that was arched on the top with arched windows all along both sides. And I started running down the corridor, and I started yelling, "Papa, I'm here! Papa, I'm here!" And I could see God sitting on a throne way down at the end of the hallway. And he jumped off of his throne and he yelled, "Woohoo!" And he started running towards me. And when he reached me, he tossed me in the air and he's like, "I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're here." And he said, "Do you want to go for a walk?" And before I could even respond, the whole wall just opened up and we were outdoors. And the first thing I noticed when we were outside were tulips. These amazing flowers that were growing, and they were the most brilliant colors you have ever seen in your life. I mean, just like stunning magenta and gorgeous bright blue and bright yellow. It's really hard to explain how gorgeous the colors are in heaven. And so I reached down and I started to touch them. And as I started to touch them, I realized that inside each little tulip was a face. And I ran my hands over the top of the tulips and they all started laughing. And it was like the laughter had so much pleasure, kind of like a baby when you touch a baby and you're kind of tickling them and playing with them. That was what this was like. And I had my first realization that everything there was alive. And I looked up because I could hear Papa God. Papa is what I call him. So I looked up and I could see that he was laughing. And I looked into his eyes and they were the most beautiful. They looked like a kaleidoscope kind of. I mean, just amazing fractions. And he was just laughing so hard at me. And as I looked past his shoulder, I saw this like pelican looking bird flying overhead. And he had a bag in his mouth that looked like the cartoons with the babies. And the bag let go just right over my head. And as it came down, there was this beautiful golden ball that floated right down into my hands. And when it reached my hands, it like rolled up my arms, kind of like a bowling ball in an alley, and sunk into my heart. And I said, "Papa, what is that?" And he said, "I've crowned you with love and kindness." And I could feel this crown on my head that like grew out of my skull. I don't know exactly. But anyway, I reached up and I touched it, and it was big and cool. And I was awestruck by how good